Welcome to this week's SIIA Tech Chats. I am happy to be joined today by Flint Brenton, who is the CEO of CollabNet and also board member of SIIA Software and Services Division. If you're not familiar with CollabNet, they help enterprises and government organizations develop and deliver high-quality software. Flint, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. It's great to see you again, Brianna.
So let's jump right in. We hear more conversations these days around the importance of improving DevOps processes. Do you think that uniting the enterprise through DevOps can help deliver better products and a better customer experience?
There's no question that that is the case. So first of all, I've been developing software for most of my adult life, and I had the pleasure of running an engineering team at a great company in Houston called BMC, and then a friend of mine became the CEO of Compaq, and he asked me to build a new software platform for customers to build and configure servers online. And from there, I just had the pleasure of building software for a variety of different market opportunities, and it's changed a lot over the last several years. And so, you know, as I'm sure you're aware, Agile development is really the preferred platform now for new development projects, although within an enterprise, still 70 to 80% of development is done using a waterfall methodology. But whether you're Agile or you're waterfall, the way you get the return on your investment is through the rapid deployment of the applications that you build. And without a viable DevOps strategy, it's not only tough to get the return on the investment in development, but it's also very difficult to drive up the value of your company. So having a viable DevOps platform and strategy and team to execute it with a culture that promotes rapid deployments, it's tough to get where you want to be, but that's something that's one of the most rapidly evolving elements of enterprise software today, and it's making a huge difference.
So what are the biggest DevOps challenges? I think you kind of just hit on a few there, but maybe you could go into a little bit more detail. And what advice would you give an organization who's looking to use DevOps to really create a higher level of service?
Right, it's a great question. So I'll use an example of a major global automotive manufacturer who is a European company but has a very substantial operation in Detroit, Michigan. And so they're one of our customers, and we actually met them as they were going through a transformation to where they needed to get value into their automobiles faster. And so they were, like many very structured, highly successful companies, they were a waterfall development shop, if you will. They needed to transform themselves to Agile. And then as the next step of that Agile journey, they needed to have the ability to get the investment they made into the software platforms they were building quickly. And so step one was to transition to Agile. Step two was to transition both Agile and waterfall development projects to DevOps platforms so they could realize the value more quickly. And as I spent a certain amount of time with the CIO of this company, he said, look, Flint, it's not that we don't understand what to do. It's not that we don't have the tools to do it. It's really making a cultural change to bring this to life. So driving a culture that embraces the innovation of software development, but the discipline and structure of driving a process to realize the value of what you build is the biggest change.
So also influencing the software development industry is this concept around value stream management, value stream mapping. What is driving this trend, and what impact can it have on software development?
That's another great question, Rihanna. So as all enterprises are under increasing amounts of pressure to drive value for their enterprise, the number one means by which they drive that value is through the development of software. So what you see now in a lot of companies, and we just use automotive as an example, when I take my car to a dealership, frequently the highest value service they provide for my car. It's not changing the oil or the sparks plugs or the shocks or tuning the timing mechanism. It's downloading a software module that drives most of the operations of the car, right? So it's critical for my auto manufacturer to build software as a primary means of driving more value in their product. And so that means that their development teams and their business units are under a lot of pressure to figure out what is the value they need to deliver, how do they do it, once they've created the value, how do they get into the market quickly? So you find that earnings per share in a lot of global enterprises is impacted more by the efficiency of your software development and the effectiveness of what you build than virtually any other activity. So what does that mean? Well, what happens a lot of times when you're running a business unit with a large software development team is you put pressure on the developers to deliver what is the strategy and then how do we deliver that value? And they come right back to you and say, look, okay, I know what we need to do, but I need more people, right? My roadblock is less tools, it's more people. So then as a business unit leader, as a business executive, you are constantly hiring people. You're constantly throwing money at the problem, and it's almost impossible to determine how effective that investment is. So value stream mapping is all about integrating the tools and the people, and then creating metrics where you can measure the delivery process so that you actually, it's like the old saying, Edward Deming said this decades ago, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? So putting the measurements in place, giving the dashboard to publish those measurements, and so that you can actually determine that you're delivering the value that you've signed up for. That's what value stream mapping is all about.
You've talked a bit about, the importance of creating a culture around the company objectives and around the software development. But and the easy part is, right, acquiring the tools and putting the processes in place. But really creating that culture is the difficult part. So as the CEO of a large company, how do you create a company culture that allows you to successfully serve your customers and create a great experience?
That's another great question. So I used to, back in the day when I started my career, I used to wear suits, right? And I don't wear suits anymore. Most people don't, unless you're going to a wedding or something pretty formal, right? But I used to love this one company that sold men's clothing, and their motto was, an educated consumer is our best customer, right? I never forgot that, right? And so the best thing for me to do as a leader of our company, whether it's for our employees or for our own customers, is to educate them on this value stream process and to educate them on how they can realize the value of the intellectual property that's created by their development community, how they can realize it quickly. And it's like many other things. Whether it's fair or not, we're all very visual, right? We all get motivated and we all make decisions based upon what we see, more so in some cases than what we hear. So if you can educate your team on the value of having a process by which you create value, you measure the creation process, and then you get the value into the hands of the customer quickly, and they understand not only the impact of that process on the company's performance and your customer's performance and their own personal ability to generate net wealth, it tends to be a motivator, right? And I find that having a well-defined process, the tools and means by which to deliver that, and then being able to measure the outcomes changes behavior. And so through education and reinforcement, you create a culture with rewards that transforms companies and leads to great results.
I think that's fantastic advice. Flint, thank you so much for joining us today. For more information on CollabNet and SIIA, please visit our websites, and we'll see you next week for SIIA Tech Chat.